Thank you all for coming and celebration of my father's life. I really wanted to be a celebration. And so I want to start with a story.
You can do
I
it.
thought I was going to be ready, but
You can do it. Take your time.
I mean, my dad's already with God, so. But, okay, so I was fortunate to take my dad to see his brother, who was really sick this past year. And he lived in Chicago, his younger brother, Guillermo. And so I told my dad, hey, let's go. This is your brother, but he's still alive. And so I'm so glad that we went to see him in his last days. And it kind of surprised me because when we got there, my uncle was not doing so good, but after he saw us, he was doing better. Oh, también tengo que hablar en español, ¿verdad? Porque unos no hablan inglés. Pero estoy diciendo una historia de mi papá, de que estamos en celebración de su vida, ¿verdad? Y tuve la oportunidad de ir con mi papá a Chicago a visitar a su hermano Guillermo, que estaba muy enfermo. Y yo le dije a mi papá, vamos, quiero que veas a tu papá, a tu hermano en vida y no en la muerte. Entonces tuvimos la oportunidad de ir a Chicago. So my dad and I went to Chicago. We got some great weather, just like here. Today was clear, it wasn't cold for Chicago, it was beautiful. And we got to see his brother, and he met us at the hotel, and he came up in a wheelchair. And wow, I mean, the life in him just came back for that brief time that we were there with my uncle. And I hadn't seen my uncle in years. And so I was glad that we got to see my uncle in life. And my brother got to see his younger brother in life. And so I also had the opportunity to take my dad and say, you know what, now that I'm retired, I go, let's go to beyond your hometown, our hometown. That's where I was born, that's where my dad was born. Entonces también tuvimos la oportunidad de ir a llevar a mi papá a León. Dije, vamos a ir a León para visitar toda la familia. I guess God was telling me something. To go and see the family. And so we went to, I can't remember if I was talking in Spanish or English, but, and so my dad, I was given the opportunity to take my dad to León as well, because I just had it in me. I said, I have to take my dad to León. I have to go see where he was born. I have to go see where that Ramirez started, where I began. So I took him to León. My dad was healthy. He was walking, everything was fine. We actually went to the rancho. That's where my dad was born, his ranch, in León, Oaxaca. And he showed me exactly where he saw his father get murdered. And I think, wow, I enjoyed my dad for all my life. 50-some years, I was able to live my dad's life. My dad didn't have that opportunity. His dad was murdered at 7. He saw him get murdered. He showed me exactly the spot where he was murdered. Lo que está diciendo yo que tuve la oportunidad de llevar a mi papá a León y ver actualmente donde empezó toda la familia Ramírez, en el rancho allá en León. Y mi papá tenía 7 años cuando vio que el vecino, que era otro ranchero, lo mató, porque tenían un desacuerdo del ganado, no sé qué, y mi abuelo Pedro estaba llevando el ganado al comisario, y cuando dio la vuelta, le dieron un balazo, ahí lo mataron a mi abuelo. Yo nunca conocí a mi abuelo. So I hopefully I covered that in English too. And we went and we looked at all the acres and said, you know, you never know where your life's going to end up. You know, you see everything. I was able to see where my dad grew up in a big ranch, beautiful. We got to the house where he was born. I was able to see a piece of wood there that showed that the house was built in 1811. And the people that owned it, actually, the gentleman there, the father of the family there, was 90-some years old. And he remembered my dad. My dad and him used to play when they were small. And there's a gentleman, 90 years old, in the barn, you know, shoveling. I'm like, wow, look at this man. He's 90 years old and he's still kicking it pretty good. You know, he's healthy. And I looked at my dad, God, my dad's healthy too. You know, so they let us in the house, so we saw where my dad was born, in the house that he grew up in. And that was one of the reasons I took the trip. I wanted to see where he was born. And then we got to see the rest of the family. So I'm saying, my dad, think about it, my dad was 7 years old. He never experienced a father. He never experienced, his life changed in the split of a moment. He had to, basically figure out, well, what's going to happen now. So what happened to the family, they got dispersed. My father and his younger brother ended up with one of my uncles who owned an auto mechanic shop. And my aunts ended up in the convents, and my grandma ended up with some of the aunts. So they were pretty much spread out everywhere, even though they did have a place for themselves, but as it happens, family takes over, and you're pretty much booted out from where you knew your home. So, lo que estaba diciendo que en un momento se le cambió a mi papá la vida, ¿verdad? Cuando mataron a su padre, él estaba en caballo también, y ahí estaba con su papá. Y en ese momento ya después, entonces la familia, a los hombres los mandaron por un tío que tenía un taller de mecánicos, y a las mujeres al convento, y a mi abuelita con unas tías, según. Y así pasó la vida. Y pues mi papá aprendió a ser mecánico, ¿verdad? So, my dad grew up in the shop with his uncle. Not, my dad would have loved to have gone to school, but the uncle basically had him work at 7 years old in the auto mechanic shop. So I think, wow, that's where my dad learned to trade. He would have loved to have gone to school, but he wasn't given that opportunity. He worked. But he had it actually better than his younger brother. His younger brother was pretty much booted out. And he was just left out in the street like a stray. And he ended up with a family, the Flores, which are here, some are here. My three of them ended up with the family called Flores. They're actually here now, they're Garden, so. And Chicago and other places, but he ended up with that family. And you think, as a kid, going through something tragic like that he would be depressed and angry. But my uncle, my dad, my God, they never showed that they were angry or mad. They loved us, they brought us up in this great country. But I guess the story is that they never showed that side of them. Yeah, they were, my dad was a man of few words, like you all knew him. But that was my dad, But let me go back now, try in Spanish. Entonces lo que pasó es el hermano de mi papá, el menor, Guillermo, el tío pues lo aventó a la calle. Y mi tío llegó con los Flores, eran familiares en los Flores en Mexico City. Y allá ellos lo recibieron como una familia, lo recibieron a mi tío. Se vino a Estados Unidos, a Chicago, allá en Nueva York, Chicago. Y mi papá se comunicó con mi papá ya cuando tenían, yo creo que unos 20 años por ahí. Lo que pasó es, mi papá, entonces digo, hay oportunidad aquí en Estados Unidos. Y sí, vente, hermano. Entonces mi papá fue también allá donde estaba mi tío Guillermo, no sé si fue en Nueva York, Chicago. Pero a mi papá no le gustó el frío. Y lo bueno es que aquí en California tenemos una tía Concha. Entonces ella fue el sponsor de mi papá. Se vino a California y nosotros estamos en León. Entonces lo que hicimos es, de pequeños, mi mamá se vino a la frontera en Tijuana. Sí, y no le pongan atención a mi esposo, porque ella dice que yo vendía chicles en Tijuana, pero eso no es verdad. Así les dice a mis hijos, que yo vendía chicles en Tijuana. Chicken, no sé qué. Y ahí es donde vino mi papá a San Pedro, y empezó de mecánico ahí con un portugués, allá por el puerto, yo no me acuerdo cómo se llama ese taller. ¿Ah? No, había otro abajo, era abajo.
Pacific.
No. I'll get to that one. The Pacific was the VW service.
Oh, yeah.
El otro era el portugués abajo, no me acuerdo cómo se llamaba el dueño.
66 gas station.
Yeah. Y entonces trabajó ahí abajo, entonces pues se fue a trabajar, fue especialista de VWs. Well, let me go back, see if I remember right now in the English translation. So my uncle, Tío Guillermo, eventually went to Chicago or New York, I can't remember which one, because of the Flores family. They loved him like their brother, and they basically gave him the opportunity, and they gave him the opportunity to come to this great country. And he started to work over there, my uncle, and then he had communication with my father. And so my father pretty much said, is there any opportunity for me over in the United States? And he said, yeah, come over. So my dad went and visited my uncle. But my dad didn't like the cold, it was too cold for him. So fortunately for him, he had an aunt in San Pedro, my tia Concha. And basically, she was his sponsor. And he got a job, let's say his trade was a mechanic, and he was a damn good mechanic. He worked for different people. He worked down by the port, and then on Gaffey, and then on Channel Street. He worked in different places. And he actually, one thing about my dad was quiet, but you know, he took risks. He took the risk of coming to a country he didn't know, okay, to support his family. And so that's what I think a lot of us get from my dad, that, you know what, he didn't let what happened to him as a child get to him or bring him down. He basically had a family to take care of, and that's what he did. So he came to San Pedro, stayed with my aunt, and then we moved from Leon down to the border. So I lived in TJ for a while, my family lived in TJ for a while. And so my dad would drive every weekend to visit us because we didn't have our green cards yet. And so we did that. I can't remember if it was a year and a half, 2 years, I don't remember how long it was. But he would visit us all the time. Every weekend, every Friday after work, he would drive down, and then every Sunday night late, he would come back to work. And we did that until we got our paperwork in order. And so we were able to come to the great United States of America. And I think my kids thank the grandpa for that. And so like I said, his life was changed when he was 7, but he didn't let that get him down. Don't let anything ever get you down. You can be what you want to be in this country. You have the opportunity. I mean, I just went back with my dad to Leon, Guanajuato to, see where he was born. And, people have to work there. No one gives you a handout in Mexico, okay? You have to basically, work and do something to live. There's no handouts over there. Okay, so that's what I appreciate, that I had 2 parents, my mom, she's already with my dad. I'm gonna place them up here in the mausoleum soon. And both my parents were hard workers, really hard workers. My mom used to work at the canneries, get up at 3 in the morning. Her friend here, Gloria, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Gloria's here. She, they used to work at the canneries. Really hard work. Get up at 3:30 in the morning, go pick up her friends to go to work. She'd come home, and those were, the moms of the day, where they would just work their ass off. I mean, she'd come home, smelly from the fish canneries, and what she'd do, start putting the food on, on the stove and cooking it and washing clothes all at the same time, multitasking. And my dad would get home, he would leave at about 7 and get home around 6:37. So he would have long days. I mean, he worked, my dad worked hard. He never took vacations. And so that's what I wanted to give back to him. I wanted him to enjoy his family. So I took him to Leon, I took him to Chicago. I wanted to, see the family. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of you in a long time. And, we, unfortunately, a lot of times the only time we see each other is during funerals. Entonces lo que estaba diciendo es que, pues mi papá tuvo la vida, trabajó como mecánico, era un buen mecánico. My dad could put a little stick in his ear, and listen for the noise. Oh, that's what it is, And so he had that gift, even he worked on all kinds of different cars. I mean, BMWs, Volkswagen, his specialty was Volkswagens, but he could work on anything. He figured it out. And that's what I learned from my dad, that what? They would throw stuff at him that he never did, but he would figure it out. He learned how to overcome whatever. Just like when his dad was murdered, he overcame that. He brought us to this great nation, this great country, and he's given us what we have. I think we're all appreciative, my brothers and sisters are appreciative of what he's given us. Sometimes, my dad didn't show emotion, but that's the Ramirez in us. We don't have a lot of emotions sometimes, but you know what? We take care. We take care. You know what? We're there. My dad was a freaking rock. I mean, what I remember is I was talking to some of my cousins here, the Paredes and Ramirez, and I remember that for me, my memories are family. We used to always get together as a family, and it's not like that anymore. And that's what it used to be. And I remember it wasn't about even Christmas time. We never got gifts. You know, if I got old English from my sister, well, that was great. You know, but we never were like, oh, I hope I get this, I hope I get that. It was, wow, we're gonna see family, we're gonna have a good time. You know, the Thanksgivings, we used to go to Arizona. You know, the brothers here, they used to go to San Pedro. We used to get together all the time, big families, and that's what I remember about the family. It was always big families getting together. And that's something we've lost. And I think we need to get back to that. So I'm hoping that after this we can get together in a restaurant and just catch up a little bit. I know everyone's busy, but if you take a little bit of time just to get together and kind of just catch up. Because the next time we may see each other, it may be, you know, for the same situation. So hopefully you guys can make it. I invite you guys here to Pollo Inca. I'll give you some directions if you need. But I guess I'll leave you with, my dad was a solid man. He provided, he never wavered. We had everything we've always needed. Yeah, we didn't go on vacations, but you know, we didn't care. I mean, you know, going to the park or going to Zodi's on a Sunday to get that submarine sandwich that was on Blue Light Special.
Kmart.
You know, Kmart, yes, Kmart. The popcorn, you know, those were our outings, you know, going to the park. You know, it wasn't like we had to be entertained with, you know, expensive, you know, toys or devices or stuff like that. Well, they didn't have them back then, but you know, the point is that we were happy. I grew, you know, we had a good childhood. My parents were great. I never saw my parents argue, you know, your typical, you know, couple, stuff like that. I know, you know, they would just stay quiet. That was their way of arguing, right? They wouldn't argue. Okay, I could tell my mom was mad because she gave my dad that look. You know, but that was the way they kind of dealt with their situation. But you know, it was never slamming doors, never yelling, none of that stuff. So I can say that, you know what, we lived in a great household. Okay, otra vez en español. Entonces, lo que quiere decir es que, pues,